the occasional glass of chocolate milk because I am a 5-year-old and that is the only way I will drink milk. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to go subscribe down below to see more videos with great tips on how to reduce your environmental impact and live more sustainably. Today we are going to be talking about milk. More specifically, how to reduce your consumption of dairy milk. To start, let's talk briefly about why you should reduce the amount of dairy milk you are consuming. Now, of course, there are many health benefits to reducing the amount of milk you drink, but we are instead going to focus more on the environmental impacts. When we talk about the environmental impact of food, we look at a couple different things. These are emissions, land use, and water use. That's because the full life cycle of making food involves many different things that all impacts the environment. When we look at dairy milk compared to other milk alternatives, dairy milk ultimately has the biggest impact on the environment in all three of these categories. This is because you're dealing with a living animal to make dairy milk. So not only do you have to consider the land, emissions, and water used to take care and raise a cow, you also have to look at the emissions, land use, and water that's used to make food for that cow, effectively multiplying the impact dairy milk has. This kind of analysis is a life cycle analysis, which is very interesting. I won't go into all the math and research of it because it does take a lot of work to determine the life cycle impact of a product. So instead, I'm just going to show you this very nice graph that compares dairy milk to other plant-based milk alternatives. Ultimately, it was found dairy milk has the highest negative impact in all three of these categories. Out of all the alternatives, oat milk ends up being the best alternative with the least amount of impact in each three category. Almond milk would be the best if it didn't use so much water in the process of creating almond milk. This is just something to keep in mind. Almonds are unfortunately a very water-intensive crop, and almond milk is the most popular alternative. Keep this in mind when choosing your alternative milk. Now, let's get into how you can reduce your dairy milk consumption. I've been able to cut back on the amount of dairy milk I consume by doing a couple easy little tricks, and they are tricks that I know you can do too. So to start, you need to look at your own diet, which is never fun, but it's always important to do when you're trying to cut back. For me, I was kind of lucky. I already don't really drink dairy milk. I just don't like plain milk by itself, and I don't really eat cereal, so there you go. That cuts out most of the dairy milk that people consume. I really only ever use dairy milk for recipes and the occasional glass of chocolate milk because I am a 5-year-old and that is the only way I will drink milk. The fact is, we've kind of been tricked into thinking that dairy milk is something that's essential for our adult diet and is something we need, when in reality, it's not as needed as you think. As long as you are eating a balanced diet, you should already be getting all the calcium you need from fruits and veggies and all that you are consuming. If for whatever reason from the food you eat is not quite enough calcium for your body, everyone's body is different of course, there are also supplements and vitamins that you can take to help fill in the gaps. Also, a lot of these plant-based alternatives also have a lot of calcium in them, so it effectively works as a good alternative that will give you more health benefits. On top of that, milk is also pretty fatty, especially compared to the nut-based plant alternatives. So there are just a lot of health reasons for why you should try to cut back some more. So when you are looking at your own diet, a good way to start is to ask yourself questions like, do I need to drink a glass of milk every day? Could I maybe find something other than cereal to eat? Or use a different kind of milk with my cereal? Can I maybe find an alternative for milk in this recipe? These kind of questions get you thinking and make you realize that you might not need dairy milk as much as you think, and there is potentially a great plant-based alternative out there that will work just as well, and sometimes I have found work better than dairy milk. By looking at my own diet, again, I had the head start because I never really drank much milk to begin with, but by looking here and seeing where I can cut back even more, I've been able to reduce the amount of dairy milk I drink to about a half gallon every 1 to 2 weeks, which varies a little bit based on what kind of recipes I am making, if I happen to have cereal that week, stuff like that. The next thing I did was turn things into a game. I made it fun to try different alternatives. I did this by switching off between dairy milk and a plant-based milk every time I go to the grocery store. So right now I'm trying a new almond milk, and that's what's in my fridge right now, and as soon as that gallon is gone, I will buy a half gallon of dairy milk. And then after that, another plant-based, and I switch back and forth. Now there are a couple of reasons why this is a really good way of doing it. First, we're reducing the amount of dairy milk that we consume. That's of course the goal, so it's a very good thing that that is what is happening. 2, we're still able to enjoy dairy milk occasionally. We aren't getting it every single time, but we're still getting it occasionally. So we aren't having the negative impacts that would happen if you just cut something out cold turkey. And finally, number 3, like I've said, we turned it into a game by trying new flavored milk every time we go. There's a huge variety out there, so it'll take a while before you run out of options, and hopefully by then you'll find one that is your favorite. So far we've tried oat milk, unsweetened almond milk, unsweetened vanilla almond milk, chocolate almond milk, and the next one we want to try is banana almond milk, which I'm very excited for because that just sounds wild to me. As we enjoy alternative milk more and more, we're hoping to then increase the number of times between each dairy milk. So right now we're doing it every other time we go to the store to get milk. Hopefully soon we can switch it to every 3 times. So we get an alternative milk twice in a row, and then dairy milk, and then increase it to every 4 times. And keep going until dairy milk is simply just a rare occasion for us, or it's completely cut out altogether and we have an alternative plant-based milk that we enjoy consistently. Whatever you do though, I am telling you, do not cut cold turkey. That is the hardest way to do something and is the best way to not make a good habit. It can actually be harmful to your health to cut out milk cold turkey if it's something you drink all the time, especially whole milk, because it is just very fatty, high in sugars and all of that. So just it disappearing from your diet, your body is going to react to it. Of course, every body is different, so do what is best for your own health. And if you need that extra bump, ask your nutritionist on what the best option is. On top of that, it also just becomes more difficult to stick to the change. You don't build habits by just changing overnight. You build habits by making slow changes over time. And that's kind of our goal here. Right now we're switching off every other week. That's very easy to do, and since we've turned it into the game, it's fun to try all these different milks. As we get more used to it and enjoy it more, we can then increase it. If you read any paper out there on how to build habits, this is how they'll tell you to do it. Just make small changes over time. This will make it easier for the change to stick and reduce the amount of cravings you have. So there you go. That's how I've been able to very easily reduce the amount of dairy milk I consume. It's super simple, nice step-based, and yes, it takes a little bit of reflection on yourself, but like I said, if you turn things into a game and think of things differently, don't think of it as giving up dairy milk, think of it as a fun way to try something new. I strongly believe this is probably the best way to cut back on pretty much anything. If there's a good alternative out there, slowly incorporate it into your daily life, and as you get used to it and you learn about it, you'll start to like it even more. And hopefully in the end, you'll find a great alternative that works best for you. That's all the time I have for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked it, make sure to leave a like down below. That way I know. Also subscribe to the channel to join the journey to living more sustainably. If you'd like to keep up on my own journey to living more sustainably in between uploads, you can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which are all links down below. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.